Welcome to welcome to another episode. How do you like that, John? I'm going through puberty. Welcome to another episode of Leading Through Crisis. As you know, we've been talking for about 10 days now about John Maxwell speaking to the world, giving a leadership response, a leadership voice to the crisis, to the coronavirus that we all are reacting and responding to. And I hope that you've been able to join John Maxwell right here the last 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. It has been some of the best content, some of the most relevant that we have seen ever from John Maxwell. And it's been for you. It's been our attempt to give you a message of hope, a message of leadership in today's world. But today is about you. It's about your ability to ask John Maxwell questions. And so around the world, we have had over 150 countries join us, John.
Wow.
We have had over 750,000 people view these last 3 days, 25,000 comments and hundreds of questions. And so today is about asking questions. Now, we're going to get started in just a minute, but we made a commitment. John made a commitment a few days ago that we would pick 10 comments from all of you that's been sharing comments, and we would take 10. He's going to sign a book to you, and then we're going to send it to you if we pick your comment. Today I have 10 more. I want to get started with these 10, John, and let you hear a few comments from the people you've impacted. John's going to sign a book. To claim your book, you need to email hope@johnmaxwellteam.com. You'll get that book in the next couple of weeks. Also, if you have a question today, feel free, write in a question at hope@johnmaxwellteam.com, and hopefully we'll pick your question to ask of John. John, Amanda Thompson said, "Thank you for adding value across the globe. I listen to you on my daily travels. Can't wait to feed my faith and add value to others from my home office. Thanks for showing us we can still add value during these times."
Good.
Thanks, Amanda. Rebecca Butler-Mona said, "John Maxwell is truly a gift, so genuine and deeply caring, with so much true wisdom and a sincere desire to share it to make a difference to others. He is incredible, and he offers those great tidbits in live webinars for so many of us. Thank you." Then we go to Rita Casanova. What a great last name, Rita. I want to trade you last names. Rita said, "Strengthening your power muscle. Stand up tall, be authentic, and inspire others to do the same thing." We had a response from Hugo Rafael Hernandez. She said, "This is the best way to invest my time. God bless you, Mr. John. I will be a part of your team." She's going to join the John Maxwell team.
That's so good. I love that. Welcome.
Then we had Melissa Charles. She said, "I choose to live a positive life stance from today. My family and I will make it through this crisis."
That's terrific.
Isn't that true? Esther Hoyes said, "I'm a college professor and I started teaching my classes online this week. I was encouraging my students to stay focused, to stay positive, and stay present just for today." Ornelia Nardine said, "Practicing what I am learning right now takes a lot of self-reflection. It's not just that some great sessions of great information, these insights are a confrontation and they hold up a mirror to me. But I believe in lifelong learning, I believe in growth and maturity, and that excites me to keep taking steps of faith, even though fear sometimes pops up."
Sure.
We know that feeling, don't we, John?
We do.
Tanya Gray said, "I have been stuck by fear. It's not a fun place to be. It's debilitating. I am so blessed to be free of fear and living a life of joy, hope, blessing, and courage because of this summit." Deborah Stacy said, "I'm a recovering fear pusher, and I'm becoming a faith pusher."
Come on. I like that.
Deborah, that's good, incredible. Deborah. Thank you so much. And then finally, John, Donna McDaniel. She said, "This is so thought-provoking. Don't feed the beast.
Yeah.
What I focus on expands.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
John,
They listened, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Listened well.
I'm going to ask you a question before we get started here about asking questions. But any comments or thoughts or reflections as you've now slept on the last 3 days?
Yeah, I have. Mark, unquestionably, I feel fulfilled. I think we did our best. We really did our best to deliver to people, almost 1 million people, it sounds like to me, a faith message, a hope message, a leadership message. And so I'm just extremely excited about the responses that you're reading. And of course, there were hundreds and hundreds of comments that you didn't even get to. But we're just here to help. And again, we have the Minute with Maxwell, and starting Thursday for 60 days, literally, I'll have a statement of strength for you that you can just pick up for yourself, pick up for your people, your team, your family, and let's just stay engaged together. I think mainly the best thing we can do is just keep engaged and keep encouraging and keep guiding and being a little bit of light. I think that's the best thing we can do right now.
Yeah, I agree. And so many of our coaches, John, are doing that. We've been on the phone.
They are.
On FaceTime or Facebook, and we have a lot of ambassadors out there, ambassadors of hope and confidence.
Yeah, our John Maxwell Team coaches, I'm very proud of them, Mark, because, obviously they're where I can't be. I mean, they're in thousands and thousands of communities around the world, and they're so eager to add value, and they have that JMT DNA that I love about them. And just if you're a John Maxwell Team coach, you take responsibility for your community and just be a lid lifter now during this time. You be that shining light for them.
So, John, we're going to spend the next hour and a half or so until we run out of questions.
Sure.
Or at least the next hour and a half, we're going to spend some time with questions. And I don't know that I have experienced so many questions and so many perplexities, uncertainties. Never been here before. You haven't been here before. These are unprecedented times. And so there's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be quite the range. And some of these questions, I've got to be honest with you, I may check out and go take notes and write a book and write some paragraphs myself because, John, in running our companies, we've been doing this summit down in Florida, but this afternoon I got to get back to Atlanta. I got to run some businesses. I got to make some decisions. We got to make it through this, and so the rubber's kind of hitting the road. We've been on summit high, and now the rubber hits the road. But you wrote a book. Good leaders ask great questions. Yeah. What's the precipice of that book, and what is the importance of questions in your leadership?
Well, it's interesting, Mark. The reason I wrote the book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions, is I think that we have a really mistaken thought about leadership, and that is that leaders are always giving answers. And I think that the only reason leaders can give good answers is because they've asked good questions. And I can remember, let me give you one illustration of this. When I was, as you know, for 25 years, I was a pastor, and by the time I was 28, I had the 10th largest church in America. And so, Mark, I was invited to Orlando, Florida, to meet with about 50 other pastors of successful churches. And I was very honored to be there. And when I got there, I realized I was in my 20s, and all the rest of them would be 40 and above. I mean, so there was a pretty much of an age variance between me and the rest of them. And I can so remember listening and getting a lot of help, and it was really a good conference. But the last session, they ask us to, if you have questions, ask them. And I had two questions that I really had on my mind. But to be honest with you, I just didn't ask the question. I felt I was a little bit out of my league. They were all more experienced than me, and I got a little bit intimidated with it. They didn't intimidate me. I intimidated myself in the process. So I left that conference and didn't ask the questions, and I drove from Orlando to Lancaster, Ohio, which would have been maybe that's a long drive. But anyway, on the way home, I said to myself, I'm never going to let this happen again. I'm never going to be in a meeting where somebody knows something I don't know and just not ask the question. And then as a leader, I was very choleric and I was very directional in my early years. And I discovered was that there were a lot of times I was leading by assumption because I hadn't asked questions. You have to find people before you can lead them. And I skipped the finding part when I didn't ask questions, and I just did the declaring part and said, assumed, okay, you're all on the same train I am, so let's go. And so the biggest transition I've had in my leadership life, I think, if you had known me as a young leader, you would have seen a very confident, strong, directional leader. And I think today you see me as, I think I'm still very confident, very strong, but I have a great, instead of having my agenda anxiety, which is a huge mistake leaders have, I have a connecting anxiety. I want to make sure I know where the people are so that I can lead them versus where I am. Leaders are too committed to making sure everybody knows their thoughts and their vision and their ideas and where they stand, and are, I think, not near enough committed to finding out where the people are. And then, obviously, you can take them and lead them. So I love leadership, but I think I love leadership a little bit more with including others and finding out their thoughts and taking their ideas and thoughts and integrate them with mine and hopefully helping them. So
Well, let's get into some questions.
Go.
And by the way, we have questions from all over the world. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, if you cannot tell. Some of your names may not sound right from my southern perspective, so forgive me for that. But I do want to call you out because we're greatly appreciative of you engaging in the conversation of leading through crisis. So, John, the first question is from Lillian Opioid. She asked, would you speak to us a little about values in this crisis? Whereas there's hope that it's a new dawn and we're going to take adversity into advantage. But would it be right to say that we need to recheck our values as a people around the world?
Well, I think it's very right to think that. In fact, I think one of the reasons we're so lost today is that we've lost our way in the area of values. And Mark, you know this because one of our passions is to help countries, and it'll soon be communities, experience transformation. And what we've discovered is that transformation begins on the inside, not the outside. Transformation begins with values. And we've discovered that when people learn good values and they live them, they just increase their value. They increase their value, they add value to themselves, they add value to others. And so I think that, yes, we've lost our way, and we need to return back to the basic values that can make a difference. I mean, when you think of the golden rule, just treat others as you would want to be treated. That withstands that connects with every religion, every culture, and that's just a good thing to do and to be to treat others as you would want to be treated. Well, that's a great value, and the moment that we begin to live out those values and embrace them, life does get better for everybody. So yes, I think definitely we've kind of lost our way, and we need to return to some good basic values.
John, you may kill me for this. The rest of the Q&A may be with just John by himself. But John, one of your values is generosity. One of your values is being abundant in your thinking with others. And I know the number of zeros that you and I are looking to in our businesses of impact, negative impact.
Sure.
If some things don't turn around really quick. So that's on your mind, but I watched you practice that value of generosity just the other day in a restaurant. John went, he didn't even know I was watching him, but I was watching. John, you went to every server that was getting ready to have to shut the dining room down. You went to every server and you gave them a large bill tip, not even people that had served you that particular day. And you just made sure that everybody knew somebody had them in their mind during this crisis that's going on. And I watched you keep the value of generosity even when there's so much uncertainty in your life, and you made a huge difference to the group that day. And so I don't know if you have something you want to say about generosity and how you keep practicing that amidst so much uncertainty and a little bit of scarcity thinking that's gripping us right now, but we've got to keep that value of generosity going.
Well, thank you. I didn't know you and were watching, but the point is that values don't change. Values don't change. Life changes, circumstances change, difficulties come and go, but values are values. They're good. That's who we are. It's again back to that Roy Disney quote, when you know what your values are, then it's easy to make decisions. And, I watched you with the value of putting people first make some very difficult financial decisions with the John Maxwell Team. And yet you were true to your decision of putting people first. And what I tell people all the time is if you just follow right values, don't worry about the fallout. And by the way, you could follow right values and have huge fallout. You could have huge loss. So I'm not just saying if you keep your values, everything's going to come your way. But here's what I know. If you keep your values, you can look at integrity right in the eyes of people and say, I put you first. Now, who's going to argue with that? I mean, I don't mean this unkindly, but when we think of, and we don't need to stay on this long, but I think that the reason that politicians have so much of a gap between themselves and the people is I think people basically look at them and feel they don't put them first. I think they put themselves first. And it's just never right to put yourself first. It is not about me. If I'm a leader, it's about you. And so the value of putting people first, I mean, if anybody ever needed a good tip in a restaurant, it's right now. They're losing their jobs. In fact, I've been kind of on a press to everywhere I go to try to be kind and generous to people because some of them, they have nothing. They're going to lose a lot. And why wouldn't I want to jump in and help them? By the way, generosity has nothing to do with money. I mean, it has nothing to do with, I know a lot of very wealthy people that are very stingy and not generous at all. So it's not like if I had money, I would be generous. No, generosity. I know some beautifully generous people that don't have very much at all, but I can tell you what, they'll give, they'll share, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Hey, let's go to another question. Lionel Sordo, thank you for your question, Lionel. Dear John Maxwell, it's always comforting to hear what you have to share, and I'm thankful for that. I have a friend who has all the symptoms of COVID-19. She got it from her husband, who is a medic, and her brother, who is in law, is in ICU because of the same virus. She has a little precious daughter. Right now, that is her biggest concern. Yeah. What do you say to people as they're looking death or uncertainty in their eyes right now as it relates to this virus?
Wow. That's a serious question there, my friend.
I know.
But there's an answer, or at least I will share what I do. If I were interacting with any of those people that had that virus and that were in pretty dire straits, I would share my faith with them. There are at times like this, and I won't stay on this long because I don't want to offend a person that doesn't believe in God, because you're my friend. And by the way, if you don't believe in God, God loves you anyway. God doesn't wait for you to love Him for Him to love you. But I would share my faith because it's at times like this I really wish people had faith, because it's one thing for me to think positive, and I think that positive thinking is very good. But it's another thing for me to have a faith in God, who really does hear my prayers and does answer my prayers and does care unconditionally for me. And I think the best gift that I could ever give a person in deep trouble was, a lot of times I'll look at them, Mark, and I'll say, I wish you had my peace, or I wish you had my strength, or I wish you had my joy. And they'll say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, what I wish is I wish you had it because you need it right now. And they'll say, well, you must be amazing. I say, well, no, I'm not amazing at all. It's my faith in God that gives me that peace, that strength, and that joy. And many times I have the privilege of introducing them into this faith. But the main thing, I would want them to have anything that I have that I think would be an advantage to them.
Yeah.
And to me, the reason I share my faith is I'm not trying to convince people my way. I'm just trying to share with them something that I have that works for me. And it's kind of like, if you have anything that works for you, don't you want to share it or give it to people? I think that just makes common sense. So
Absolutely.
That's what I do.
Well, and so we just got this question in. So we're taking questions from 2 days ago, questions from yesterday. This is from Sherry.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you the question, then I'm going to have to give just a little bit of context, okay? So Sherry says, this is her question. How do you deal with the barbers in your life who just want to always be negative? Okay, you got the question. For those of you that did not watch yesterday, John tells the story of the guy that was going to Italy. He was going to on a little bit of vacation, and while his barber was cutting his hair, the barber kept telling him all the things he was doing, the airline he was going, the hotel he was staying at, the region of Italy that he was going to, all of these negative things. And then the last thing the guy says was, I'm going to get to see the Pope, but I guess that's not going to be good either. And the barber said, you're never going to see the Pope. And so finally he went and came back, and the barber said, well, how'd the trip go? And he said, well, it went really good. Everything was really good, not anything like you said. But he said, the Pope did have really an interesting question. He said, where did you get that terrible haircut? And so that kind of sets the context. Hilarious story. So Sherry again is saying, John, how do you deal with the barbers in your life who just want to be negative?
I remember I was doing a conference one time, and that question was asked me, Sherry, and so I did something that was just, this is fun, but there's some truth in it, okay? I shared with people, I said, if you've got somebody that's always been negative, when they come up and start dumping that junk on you, I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, I want you to take your left hand, this finger here, and put it in this ear. And I want you to take your right hand, take this finger, and put it in this ear. And then I said, I want you to close your eyes. And as they're dumping that garbage on you, I want you to do as loud as you can. I want you to go, ah! I said, I promise you, they'll stop immediately. And of course, the audience just went crazy laughing. And then I said, here's what's really good about that. What's really good about that is the next time they start to dump on you, all you got to do is go kind of slow towards your ears, and they'll get the message real quick. This guy doesn't want to hear all this negative junk. I mean, I was doing a statement today of strength. And I can't remember who it was that I quoted, but it was such a fabulous quote. And he said, basically, negative thinking is like putting fertilizer on weeds. Wow. I mean, if you were out in the garden, and you were fertilizing weeds, and somebody saw it, they'd say, you're an idiot. What are you doing? Those weeds, there's no return there. You want to get the weeds out of your garden. You're fertilizing them. Well, isn't it amazing we could see somebody fertilize weeds in a garden and say how disgusting and dumb that is, and we can let people have negative thinking and talk negatively, and nobody ever walks in their life and say, that's not good thinking, and challenge them. It's kind of like the garden in the ground is more important than the garden in our mind.
Wow.
That's kind of short-sighted thought, I think.
Yeah. You mentioned the statement of strength, and Andrew, I'm going to put you on the spot in just a moment with a website, but you mentioned a statement of strengths. And you've been in the studio all morning, if I'm not wrong. You've been in the studio recording statements of strength in times of adversity. It's a program we have called Minute with Maxwell. It is 100% free. There's no subscription. There's no catch your name. And Andrew, I believe it's leadwithjohn.com. Is that right? Leadwithjohn.com will give you access to the Minute with Maxwell that John does, and that you were just talking about, the strengths test. And I got to tell you, not only have you Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, today made yourself and your wisdom and your perspective of leadership available, but the fact that you've been in the studio the last 2 days recording statements of strength that will help us. And I will challenge you. Some of you are already a part of Minute with Maxwell, but I'll challenge you over the next 60 days, you're going to want to be a part of it, because John's going to give you a thought every single morning to give you strength in this time of crisis. Let's go to the next question, John. Leslie Smith. Leslie Smith asked the question, how do you manage a team that is emotionally sensitive and each member diverse?
Who asked that question?
Leslie Smith.
Good luck, Leslie. Oh, shoot. Well, I think there were two things that she had.
Yeah, they're emotionally sensitive, and each member has a lot of diversity. It's a diverse
Well, I think diversity is wonderful. So that would, I mean, when you ask how you handle diversity, you value diversity. The reason you love diversity on a team is because they come from different perspectives, different experiences, and really, when you're all going for the same mission and vision, you want as many perspectives as possible. It just really rounds you out in a beautiful way. So the diversity, I think, is kind of an asset, not a detriment. Now, when people are emotionally sensitive like that, what I do in those cases, I've done it hundreds of times, is I sit down individually with the person, Mark.
Yeah.
And I just talk to them about their emotional sensitivity. And I ask them to give me boundaries. I say, okay, it seems to me that you are, quote, like easily offended. Is that true? And yeah, well, so what can you give me boundaries on what seems to be offensive to you? And I try to listen to them. I'm listening to them not only because of clarity on boundaries. Really what I'm listening to is I'm listening to see if this person really can handle the kind of meetings I have.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, people that take everything personal, I can't handle it after a while, because we're trying to accomplish something, and people that, it's all about me, and how about how I feel and what I think, and there are a lot of times I lead people in the direction they should go that I don't want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not about me. In fact, one of the things I like, Mark, about you with the different John Maxwell Team enterprises is that you have upfront expectations with people when they come on the team. And one of the things you teach them, Mark, which I think is so solid, is it's not about you.
Yeah.
And just before they get offended, you say, but let me help you. It's not about me either.
It's not about me either, yeah.
It's about the big picture. It's about the vision. It's about the mission. So I think you have to individually talk to those people. But when you're asking them boundaries and those things, what you're really you're trying to ascertain, really, there's a lot of people, they shouldn't be at the table. I don't mean this unkindly, but if they can't be a big boy, big girl, and handle some tough issues without taking everything personal in their life, after a while you just realize that you're not going to be healthy, and you're not going to make progress with that type.
Well, and I hear you make this quote all the time. Leadership is about disappointing people at the rate they can stand.
Yeah.
And I think you asked the question, Leslie, how do I manage a team? And I'm not messing with you on your use of words there, but managing a team that is emotionally sensitive is going to create a lot of dysfunction, because you can't manage it. You cannot manage emotion. Emotion changes every day. It changes with the stock market. It changes with the next outbreak of virus. Yeah. You got to lead. You got to lead that team. And I've found for us, John, and I learned this from you, is one, I don't lead by airing everything I've got out there.
No.
I mean, how
you can't moan and lead at the same time.
The leadership is about disappointing people at the rate they can stand. Mm-hmm. And so, especially with emotional sensitive people, I get the leadership perspective set, and then I go deliver it to the team. If they're emotionally unstable, I don't invite them into the complexities of leadership. Yeah. I provide leadership and then lead them where we're wanting to go,
Oh, that's very good. On your team, Leslie, you need people that will lift you up, not wear you out.
Yeah.
And so you just have to kind of look at your players and, ask yourself, are they a plus or are they a minus in my life? And then lead them accordingly.